Hello, my name is Nathan Peterson. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. Have you ever heard of postpartum OCD? Did you know that this exists? Let's go over that. Before we get into that, make sure you subscribe to my channel. I'm posting videos every single week on different mental health issues such as OCD, anxiety, depression, and so forth. Postpartum OCD is one of the most misdiagnosed perinatal disorders. Perinatal means around the time of childbirth. So essentially, somebody who is pregnant, who's about to have a child, or already had a child can develop some OCD. While the chances are low, it's about 1 to 3% of all women who have children will develop this OCD, it's still something to think about. And these are the ones that they actually have found for the research study. There's probably a lot more. We've seen OCD symptoms rise within people within a week of having a child. Sometimes this starts as they're pregnant, sometimes it starts after childbirth. A lot of individuals may not have any OCD symptoms prior to this whatsoever. Some may already have OCD in the past, and this is just another trigger that may cause another theme or topic into their life for them to start worrying about and maybe obsessing. Research has shown that these individuals who have postpartum OCD tend to obviously think about their children. They worry that something bad is going to happen to their child. In contrast to some other themes such as contamination, scrupulosity, POCD, HOCD, this is more related to their child. A lot of individuals with postpartum OCD worry a lot about the accidental harm to their child. Some worry about the harm that they might give to their child on purpose. Before I go through this list, make sure you know that I'm going to be saying some pretty tough things that might be hard for a lot of people to hear. Here are some of the fears that people may have. The idea that the baby might die in their sleep, also known as SIDS. The thought of dropping a baby from a high place. The thought of putting a baby in a microwave or a stove. An image of a baby who's died. Thoughts of a child choking, unwanted impulses to actually shake at the child, thoughts of yelling at a baby, thoughts of poking your child, especially on the soft spot on the top of their head, thoughts of knives and stabbing, and also thoughts of drowning a baby. So you can imagine an individual that has these thoughts. How distressing is this in their life? We know that the nature of OCD wants to attack what people value most. So you think of somebody having a new child or a baby in their life. What do you think they value in that moment? Probably keeping their child safe. So what do you think OCD can do? It's gonna come in there and say, hey, you wanna keep your child safe? We're gonna make this terrorizing for you. With a lot of these thoughts, a lot of moms are shocked. They don't know what's happening. They think they're a bad person. They often don't want to talk about this because it's scary. They don't want anyone to think that they are crazy. They don't want anyone to take their child away. And so that's when a lot of these compulsions start to come into play. A lot of the compulsions are mental compulsions. These would be pushing that thought away as fast as they can, trying to make sense of the thought, trying to use logic, trying to say, no, I'm a good person, I would never do that. Some people might use prayer and ask God to help them through these moments. But when used as a compulsion, a lot of people might pray multiple times a day, sometimes 50 plus times a day. There can often be some magical thinking that comes along with this, making pacts with themselves or even God, that if I do things a certain way, that I won't have these thoughts anymore, or that I won't do that thing that my brain said I might do. For instance, if I touch the light and I do the light switch a few times, my brain says, okay, now you're good. You won't do that thing your brain said you're gonna do to your child. Some people make pacts with God to say, I will start going to church. I'll make sure I pray every day. I'll make sure I read my scriptures. And if I do that, please take this burden from me. Really, these individuals are trying to seek relief, and I don't blame them. Some of these individuals may try to seek reassurance from their loved one or from themselves. When they finally get brave enough, they may ask somebody, do you think that I would really do this thing that my brain said that I'm gonna do? Do you think I'm a good person? Or their mom or their spouse or their friend is going to say, no, you are a good person. You'd never do that. You love children. And that's gonna make them feel a little bit better, very temporarily though. They may reassure themselves that they say, no, I am a good person. I would never do this. Stop thinking this. I would never do this. I'd never do this. I'd never do this. Some individuals may start researching online to see if others have these same type of fears, if it's normal, just to figure out what's going on with them. They may post in forums to say, hey, I had this thought. Do you think that this is OCD, or do you think this is something else? And most people will say, well, it sounds like OCD. Don't worry about it. You're a good person. So they got some relief pretty temporarily, once again. Maybe one of the bigger compulsions that I see is just avoidance. If I have a negative, unwanted thought about my child harming them in some way or another, do you think I'm going to spend time with them? That'd be pretty scary. A lot of individuals don't want to risk something like that. So they may put their child in a little playpen to say, you stay in there until I'm ready for you, or until this thought goes away, or until my husband comes home and then he can help me through this. Or they stick them in a room with an iPad or a TV just to keep them occupied so I don't have to deal with this. And when I'm saying this, I don't want anyone to think that I think you're a bad parent for doing this. No, I totally get this. You want to seek that relief. I would too. Some individuals may avoid different news stories. They don't want to hear about this stuff. It may trigger a thought, may trigger an image. Some individuals may have different rituals that their brain says they must do. That when you put your child down, you need to make sure you tap them on the top of their head 2 times. You make sure that you play with their ears a little bit. You make sure that you put your hand down their face, and you make sure the blanket's just right here at their chest. And you got to turn that light off just the right way. Turn on that sound machine. And if you leave the room and it didn't feel okay, you better go back in, because something bad is going to happen to that child. And it's going to be your fault because you didn't do it the right way. How distressing is this? Like I said, it takes what somebody values and tries to attack it. There's also something that's called postpartum psychosis. Some individuals may think that these are the same. An individual with postpartum OCD has these unwanted thoughts or images or impulses, and they do everything they can in their power to make sure it doesn't happen. They're fearful of it. They feel anxiety. They feel distress. It's on their brain constantly checking, making sure they're going to be okay. When somebody has postpartum psychosis, they may have these same images, thoughts, impulses, but this tends to be part of their delusion, meaning that they feel like they need to do this. They may not even feel anxious about it. They may not feel any distress. They may feel like it's just part of life. It's just what I need to do. My brain tells me to do it. Part of the delusions say do it. And this is where it can be very dangerous. These individuals may not fight these thoughts whatsoever. They may perceive these harm thoughts as a good idea. Postpartum psychosis is actually a big risk to the child. These individuals need to go to the hospital as it causes a serious risk to the child. So you see the difference. One of them, it's a good idea. There's hardly any anxiety or none. There's no avoidance. There's nothing they're doing to make sure this doesn't happen. And postpartum OCD is they're avoiding, they're making sure it doesn't happen, they're making sure they're a good person. They're just making sure that everything is okay. So when you see the contrast of the two, it's very different. But OCD can sometimes make the person believe that they are just like that person, because I would be like that person with postpartum psychosis because I am having the same thoughts. So how about postpartum OCD in fathers? Studies have shown that fathers can actually suffer from this as well. According to a research study, they showed that 2/3 of all fathers have reported negative, scary, unwanted thoughts about their child. Let me give you an example. So myself, I've got 3 kids. I remember bringing home my very first child and walking up the steps with them as they're probably 2 or 3 days old, and I get to the top and my brain says, wow, you could just take that child and roll them down the stairs. I saw the images, I felt the impulse, I felt anxiety about it. My brain started questioning, I can't believe you'd think that. Whoa, I can't believe you'd do that. This child's only 2 days old, what are you thinking? And because I know this type of treatment, I already have the knowledge of this, I actually did my own little treatment for it. We'll go over that a little bit later when I talk about treatment. But first, what causes postpartum OCD? Obviously being pregnant, but if we look at it biologically, there are a lot of hormones that are coming into play. 2 in particular, there's progesterone as well as oxytocin. These together are flowing within the body more than normal. And research has shown that oxytocin, in particular with serotonin, a neurotransmitter, is believed to play a role within OCD. It's also a thought that the imbalance of oxytocin in the body changes the levels of serotonin, which can also lead to possible OCD. But for now, that's actually just a theory because, like I said just a little bit earlier, fathers. Why are fathers affected with this? They're not getting those chemicals in their body. They're not getting those hormones. So there's still a lot to learn about this. So what is the treatment? The treatment is exposure and response prevention, which can sound scary, but hold up. Maybe not as scary as you think. Our goal is to take these thoughts, take these images, take these impulses, and we're not going to make sense of them. We're not going to put logic into it. Our goal is to take power and value away from these thoughts and impulses and images, and it's probably doing maybe what you think. Our goal is to actually step closer to the threat. So for instance, with my story bringing my child up the stairs, what I did in that moment is I had my child in my arms and I looked down those stairs and I bounced him up and down. And I said, yep, I may or may not throw you down these stairs. I may or may not throw you down these stairs. And my brain said, well, you're gonna be a bad person if you did that. And I said, yep, I'm probably gonna be a bad person if I do that. I may or may not. And it's like, but you haven't had those thoughts or images before. Are you sure you're not really gonna do that? And I'm like, yep, well, I might, but I'm not running away. I'm gonna sit right here and I bounce them up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down. And I sat there and I actually sat there for probably about 10 minutes or so. And my brain was like, okay, move on, you're good. But I didn't have to convince myself that I'm good. I needed to actually see in that moment, feel like I'm risking to say, I'm gonna live a little bit more uncertain about this. I'm not gonna try to figure it out. I'm gonna trust in my morals and values even though in that moment I can't, and I'm gonna move forward. And I'm gonna remember next time I go up those stairs with my child, I'm gonna make sure I spend a few extra minutes at the top to say, yep, hey, I remember that thought. And guess what? I'm not letting you ever come back because I'm attacking it right as it came. But I can tell you, if I got to the top of those stairs and my brain said, oh no, I can't believe you'd throw your child down the stairs, and I ran away as fast as I could and I shut the door and I made sure that I was a good person and I put my child in the crib, then I just put a lot of value and power on that thought. And so what do you think is gonna happen the next time I go up those stairs? My brain's gonna say, hey, remember, you're a bad person. And over time, it's gonna get harder and harder and harder for me to be around my child. So some final thoughts. If you are struggling with postpartum OCD, or you're not sure if you have it, go see a therapist, go see a doctor. Make sure you see a therapist that is specialized within OCD. I know it's scary to tell them your thoughts. I know you feel like something bad's gonna happen if you do, but it needs to be done. People no longer need to sit in silence with this. There is definitely treatment. You gotta trust in the process. I hope this video was helpful for you. If it was, go take some action for yourself. Make sure you send this to people that you know if you feel like this could be helpful for them. I'm hoping to do a whole video on how to do treatment for postpartum OCD, so make sure you subscribe if you don't want to miss that. Thank you so much for watching. Contamination. In contrast to some other themes such as some individuals may seek research, An individual with which can sound scary. Don't run. That was weird, don't say that.